Become healthier, smarter, and more efficient. Feel better, more confident, happier. Transform yourself. These are the alluring promises of the self-help world. They sound appealing, don't they? They describe the person you aspire to be. This is because we've been led to believe we're not healthy, intelligent, productive, confident, or happy enough. And perhaps, in some ways, we aren't. Maybe we could all use a little guidance. Perhaps picking up that book, enrolling in that seminar, or tuning into that podcast is the answer. However, the self-improvement movement has a tight grip on us. It has persuaded us that we are fundamentally lacking, so we'll spend our way to fulfillment. This strategy is clearly effective. The self-improvement industry was valued at nearly $38 billion in 2022 and is expected to soar to about $80 billion by 2030. Americans pour over $11 billion each year into self-improvement books, coaching, and apps. These are staggering figures, largely built upon making us feel inadequate. It's entirely normal to struggle with feelings of depression and anxiety. Feeling uncertain about the future or our relationships is a fundamental part of the human experience. Of course, seeking external help can be necessary to feel better, but the self-help industry too often exploits our genuine insecurities for financial gain. We live in a divisive and frightening historical moment. With the internet constantly available, the endless anxiety of doom scrolling is always waiting. Self-help resources offer ways to combat the things we perceive as wrong with ourselves and our lives, providing a sense of control through empowerment and personal growth. Through these resources, we can develop new skills to regulate emotions, manage budgets and time more effectively, or establish better routines. By teaching concepts like mindfulness for stress regulation, they can even enhance our physical health by providing information on diet and sleep. We might be on a quest for purpose, or seeking to make better choices about our health, career, or relationships. Self-help leaders can foster a heightened sense of self-awareness. By better understanding our strengths and weaknesses, we can evolve into the people we envision, boost our self-esteem, and improve our communication with others. However, for all its promises, the self-help industry has one significant flaw. No two people share the same experiences or problems. The one-size-fits-all solutions commonly offered cannot be customized to our unique needs. For instance, career advice for an artist is vastly different from that for a financial analyst. People turn to self-help to solve professional challenges and improve their networking or leadership skills, but the vast array of conflicting advice can lead to paralysis. How far can you truly go if you're unable to determine which guidance applies to you? It's like having a problem and getting contradictory opinions from your parents, friends, and mentors all at once. A complex web of advice where it's nearly impossible to distinguish the good from the bad. We often seek self-help to live more authentically and achieve a sense of personal accomplishment. We chase that elusive meaning that promises to make our lives feel complete and desire stronger, more communicative relationships. Self-help can offer an accessible and relatively affordable path toward these goals. But just like with career advice, finding purpose has no universal solution. Each of us must forge a unique path, and to believe the answers are in books and seminars is to miss the point of life, which famously lacks an instruction manual. Self-help thrives on pre-packaged solutions, morning routines, productivity hacks, fitness regimens that may not align with our individual lifestyles or needs. We feel pressure to conform, influenced by the apparent success of gurus and their followers. The quest for fulfillment is not new. The first widely read self-help book, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, appeared in 1936 to improve interpersonal skills. A year later, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich advised on harnessing one's mindset to control life's outcomes. Though the world has changed since the 1930s, an eerie similarity remains. The Great Depression created widespread uncertainty, and in such times, self-help gurus often emerge with answers. Did those books offer solace? Probably. Did they solve everyone's problems? Absolutely not. This pattern repeated itself after the 2008 financial crisis, when many Americans felt their lives crumbling. The 2010s saw an explosion of online self-help. Gurus like Brené Brown, an expert on vulnerability, and Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, rose to prominence, targeting the strife people were experiencing with broad solutions. They were preceded by figures like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra, but the 2010s also saw the rise of the social media influence. Suddenly, anyone could dispense advice to a global audience with no credentials required. Then, the COVID-19 pandemic threw the world into chaos, forcing people to confront existential questions about their purpose and happiness. The already massive self-help industry found an entirely new audience, and that search for meaning continues today. In our current state of flux, it's natural to ask for help. But the source of that help is crucial. With the explosion of self-improvement on social media, it's easy to fall for an influencer whose life seems perfect, assuming they hold the secrets to happiness. When we're in pain, any solution can seem attractive. However, self-help has mixed results. Studies show about 85% of people abandon their efforts within 6 months due to unrealistic goals or a lack of personal support. And for the 15% who find success, is the cost worth it? Some coaching programs charge between $5,000 and $20,000. And even the average consumer spends hundreds annually on books and apps. The industry gets us by marketing happiness, a universal pursuit. But while some gurus may have good intentions, there's significant room for danger. It's easy to become addicted to advice, drain your finances, and convince yourself that fulfillment is just around the corner. This can lead to perfectionism and burnout. Approximately 67% of people feel overwhelmed by the sheer number of available strategies, leading to decision fatigue. The constant message of always be improving means there's no finish line, fostering a perpetual sense of inadequacy. The idealized gurus on social media set unattainable benchmarks, causing people to hyper-focus on their flaws and become even more dissatisfied than before. This culture overemphasizes productivity, tying self-worth to output. We start sacrificing rest and leisure to meet productivity goals. The hustle culture, glorified in self-help, promotes the idea that success only comes through relentless effort, a binary thinking that inevitably leads to failure. There is no room for partial progress. You either adhere to the method perfectly, or it won't work. We are all imperfect, and self-improvement that insists we can eliminate imperfection is a trap. Furthermore, the industry is rife with toxic positivity. The influencer who is always cheerful, the book with no chapter on setbacks. These portrayals make us feel lost when we hit a roadblock. This constant expectation of optimism is crushing and leaves little room for genuine self-awareness. Social media is the perfect vehicle for this myth. It allows anyone to become a guru and perpetuates comparison culture. Influencers present curated, idealized versions of their lives, creating pressure for followers to measure up, an impossible task. In a way, this is the point. The more helpless people feel, the more help they will seek, even if the help is the source of their helplessness. This can lead to a fear of missing out, FOMO. If you aren't following every single recommended practice, you might feel the whole effort is useless. These rigid guidelines discourage adaptability and self-forgiveness. Since the advice is often generic, it's expected that many won't fit the mold, leading to self-blame when progress isn't achieved. The ethos of self-improvement suggests we have total control over our lives, but this ignores external circumstances like world events or our personal background. By downplaying these factors, self-help guides can actually hinder self-awareness and authenticity. They encourage conformity, suppressing unique behaviors that don't align with the prescribed method. We become so reliant on metrics and goals that we lose the bigger picture. We might be on a fitness journey but discover a love for tennis. However, if it doesn't fit the rigid program, do we sacrifice something we might love? Ultimately, true success is about finding independence, financial, physical, or emotional. But to find it, we must think for ourselves. The business of self-improvement depends on us remaining convinced that we cannot. The biggest red flag is the immense amount of money involved. The industry's growth rate is comparable to the global clothing industry. Do we really need these seminars as much as the clothes on our backs? Capitalism thrives on creating perpetual demand, and self-improvement products do this by emphasizing our ongoing inadequacy. We're encouraged to keep buying solutions rather than achieving a state of fulfillment. This creates a productivity fetish, where our personal value is equated with our output, leading to stress and burnout. What if we were simply worthy for being who we are? That idea doesn't fit the model. Happiness is positioned as something to be purchased. Feeling down? Buy new clothes. Stressed? Buy this calming elixir. Hopeless? Buy this course on creating your dream life. The problem is that many people face cost barriers, making these resources accessible only to those with disposable income and exacerbating inequality. With savvy marketing, we can be convinced a 10-week course from a coach we've never met will solve everything. This isn't to say there aren't genuine experts, but the noise is overwhelming. Often, those with the best marketing win. This can lead to predatory practices, with gurus exploiting vulnerabilities with overpriced, ineffective programs. Famous figures like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra have amassed fortunes worth hundreds of millions of dollars. The pursuit of profit often overshadows the goal of genuine growth. The business of self-improvement encourages us to be defined by how much we spend on our betterment, rather than by how much better we actually feel. Ironically, these guides may have the reverse effect. A 2016 study found that consumers of growth-oriented self-help books showed higher levels of the stress hormone cortisol, while readers of problem-focused books had more depressive symptoms. The moment we engage with this content, an expectation is created, and with it, pressure. The industry, rooted in well-intentioned goals, has become a system of expectation. To balance its values with its misguided system, we must ensure self-improvement is a tool for empowerment, not exploitation. If you find yourself trapped in a cycle of consumption, you will likely only feel worse. Instead, shift your focus to sustainable, intrinsic growth. If one piece of advice resonates, explore what it means to you, separate from a larger agenda. By stepping outside the industry, we can combine helpful advice with our own intuition. It's also crucial to be wary of perfectionism and embrace self-compassion. Growth matters, but only if we can sustain it. Gurus preach optimization, but this can lead to obsession. Missing a workout might feel like failure, but perfection is unrealistic. Progress is more important than the goal itself. Recognizing small triumphs and setbacks is the only healthy way to approach growth without burning out. Staying on the self-improvement hamster wheel inevitably leads to exhaustion. Pausing to acknowledge imperfections is key to retaining our individuality. These methods often assume we are all the same. Instead of following advice as gospel, seek adaptable frameworks you can tailor to your needs. Make the work easier for yourself instead of trying to become someone else. Celebrate what makes you unique. Take the advice that resonates and leave the rest behind. Self-improvement is nothing without self-expression. Once we can think for ourselves and value our uniqueness, we are less susceptible to any single program. We can finally see the movement for what it should be, an opportunity to foster kindness toward ourselves. Is self-improvement inherently dangerous? No, but the industry built around it is. The idea that we can read or watch ourselves into a better life is a myth we've been sold. If we can approach this world with a critical eye, we can take what works and leave the rest. We can recognize when we're being manipulated, not helped. We can embrace our authentic selves and reject conformity. And most importantly, we can accept that wanting to be better doesn't mean we aren't already good enough.